I briefly touched on the concept of the infinium paradox, and there's actually several other different paradoxes I myself thought of on my own, but probably already exist in another form by another name. So I'm going to talk about some of these paradoxes in particular in this episode of Knowledge Drop. So the first one is the one I've already touched on. That's the infinium paradox. The one that basically explains that humans really cannot grasp the concept of the infinity. I've also called it the what lies beyond paradox. It just shows how scary the concept of infinity is and how humans really can't grasp it. It basically asks the question constantly, what lies beyond? So, for example, what lies beyond this planet? Well, the rest of the solar system. What lies beyond the solar system? The rest of the galaxy. What lies beyond that? The rest of the Virgo supercluster. What lies beyond that? The rest of the universe. What lies beyond that? The void between realities. What lies beyond that? Say other universes and other realities. What lies beyond that? Is it astral sea and burning hells? What lies even beyond that? The whole of creation. Like, what lies beyond that? Is it the unfathomable abyss? Well, what lies beyond that? That's the infinium paradox. The idea of just how ridiculous and mortifying the idea of infinity is and how humans just really can't seem to grasp their head around it. The most common way to observe how humans really can't figure out infinity is when everyone says infinity plus one. That's still infinity. Or infinity times infinity. It's still infinity. It's like when you multiply anything by zero, it's still zero. Now the next one that I'm going to touch on is called the mortis paradox, that I've also called the everything is death paradox. It's similar to the conversational phenomenon where any conversation, if carried on for an infinite amount of time, inevitably leads to Hitler. It's kind of like that in the way that the idea of any profession, no matter what, if taken to enough of a ridiculous extreme, can inevitably reach the conclusion that killing everyone is the best possible option. For example, a doctor's job is to heal the sick, the dead cannot get sick. Therefore, if you kill everyone, no one can get sick. This has also been a plot point for several things, including most prominently in my head, the Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls expansion, in which Malthael, former Archangel of Wisdom, now Angel of Death, determines that in order to fulfill his purpose of ending conflict, he has to end everyone. In death, there is peace, basically. The idea of that. Also playing into the idea of so long as humans are upon Earth, Earth will never know peace. And playing into the other idea of, as long as there are two people on this planet, someone's going to want someone killed. To quote Team Fortress 2 Sniper, basically. I even directly called out this paradox in a short story I wrote, in which the main antagonist had not completely gone to the idea of killing everyone is the best option, but he had gotten close. And he had created this plan called the Unity in Silence, where he determined that the reason behind conflict is the ability to express difference. So if he basically imposes a rule that makes it forbidden to speak, then there will be peace. Like, it's kind of like that. I believe I called that guy the Midnight. But anyways, then the next one I wanted to touch on was called the belief of caution paradox. That one has been the bane of people. I have seen it firsthand destroy people. Like, there was one individual in particular who this particular paradox almost completely ruined them as a person with their reputation. The idea is that any statement, no matter how ridiculous, could be believed. Like, it will be believed by someone, if only for the fact that just in case it is true, they don't want to look bad. So you could even admit, this proposal is ridiculous, but I'm going to take it with a grain of salt. I'm going to hold it to a level of possibility just in case it's true. And that actually nearly destroyed one of my friends as a person. I'm not going to go into that because just for their protection, for their sake, but say someone says, he killed someone at this place. Whether or not they actually believe it, they're going to hold that to a level of possibility, because they might even say the idea that he killed someone is ridiculous, but I'm going to hold it at a level of possibility just because of the fact that it's possible he did kill someone at that place. And that's what's actually led to a lot of destroyed reputations and a lot of respectable people just going down the tubes because a ridiculous claim was made that people believed because of the possibility that it could be true. Like, just in case it's true, I'm going to hold that to a little level of possibility just in case it's true. That's what I've called the belief of caution paradox. And it really goes into the whole idea of nobody wants to be held accountable for their actions. And they don't want to defend somebody and then turn out to be wrong and have to admit that they're wrong. People would rather die than admit that they were wrong. There's also a subset of this that I've called the neutrality paradox. So Bones paradox, the neutrality paradox, in which a person does not take an active stance to allow themselves complete deniability of a truth or a lie. One of them can kind of lead to another. So say a ridiculous claim is made. A person says, I'm not going to take a side on this, so that way, if it does get found out that one is correct, I can immediately go to that side and say I was right. Because holy crap, the lengths people will go to be able to say that they were right. I can't even begin to explain my frustration at this sheer stupidity of this concept of the idea that admitting an incorrectness, even if you didn't propose it, is just the thing to be avoided, and you have to do anything you can just to prove yourself right, even if it means horrible things. Anyways, the next one I'm going to touch on, I've called the in defense of the detestable paradox. It's kind of related to belief of caution. It's almost the opposite, actually, in which you defend the actions of a person due to a particular thing that you like about that person. And that's, say, this artist you found out is an absolute he's a horrible person, but he draws really good art. So you defend that person as a person because you like their art. And that's the kind of in defense of the detestable. This kind of does lead into the whole, I can't let myself be proven wrong. I cannot admit that I am wrong, so I have to defend this person who is horrible just so I can say that I wasn't wrong. So you defend the person, you defend the artist because you like their art, and you don't want to feel bad about liking their art, so you try to make the artist look good even when they're horrible. So that's kind of the summary of in defense of the detestable. You defend a person because of their product. And of course, there's two sides to this. There's the whole, you need to differentiate the producer from the product. There's also the whole idea that like you need to hold the producer accountable despite their product, or you need to learn how to dissociate those two. Like there's a big battle between those two, especially within art itself, when a good artist is a terrible person and people defend them because they like the art and they don't want to feel bad about liking the art. Even if, objectively speaking, it's a good quality piece, it is well drawn, but the person who drew it is horrible as a person, and yet you defend them because you don't want to feel bad about saying that art is good. The last one I'm going to touch on, I think this is the sixth one actually. I don't really have a name for it yet, but it's kind of a logical fallacy more than a paradox. It's basically the value of saying your argument first, and it's kind of related to belief of caution, where in an argument or a debate or whatever, if you get the first word, you're inherently on top, basically, because you're saying your word first, and the next person to speak now has to disprove your word before they can get their word in. And it's a lot easier to kill someone than it is to convince them. That's a t-shirt idea right there. But because of that, if you get your word out first, if you make your word the first one that is said, then you're inherently on top, because if the person after you doesn't disprove your word, then all the first person has to do is say, they didn't say I was wrong, and it kind of goes back to the belief of caution. That person killed someone. Even if the claim is completely ridiculous, if the person who allegedly killed someone doesn't say, I did not kill anyone, then people are going to say, well, he didn't deny it, so that's admission. But lack of evidence is not evidence against. Lack of denial is not admission. But people are so stupid. That's the takeaway from this. People are stupid. But anyways, you got those paradoxes and fallacies, and it all really just loops back to how people will go to any length possible just to not have to say that they made a mistake or that they were wrong. After basically explaining the what, which is the paradoxes, and I'm sure there was a better word to use, I suppose the next thing is why. Why are people so vehemently opposed to admitting that they are wrong? And it really is just the enabling potential of the glory and horror that is the internet. And I've said it before many times that the shield of anonymity is the most cowardly of them all. Because one of the things that irks me so much is that I know, in my heart of hearts and my mind of minds, I know that 99 or 95 probably percent of the people who say the stuff they do on the internet would never say it out in their waking life, out in their world, because they would get punched right in the face. That would be asking for trouble, and they know it. And they know that even if somebody does come to them and punch them in the face for what they said on the internet, then they get to say, well, look where you are, punching people on the internet because you got nothing better to do. Well, I mean, I say to them, where have you gotten in life that you have nothing better to do than be a I once wrote a story, another one about fighting demons, because a lot of my stories have people fighting demons, because why not fight demons? Anyways, so the person asked the question, basically, why do I bother fighting for light? When 99% of the universe is empty space and darkness, why do I bother fighting for that one speck of light? And I had the character who answered the question say, well then I say unto you, does it not anger you greatly that the default is darkness? Does it not make you want to fight them if only for the sake of fighting them? I mean, does it not piss you off to no end that there are so many that simply cannot be decent? Does it not make you want to battle them if only for the sake of fighting in a battle? Because you might as well fight them because that's why they're doing it. You might as well fight them because they're going to try to kill you either way. And then of course the argument of like, well, does that make me no better than them? I mean, yes, because you didn't start it, I'd say. But then again, who am I to be mad about this? Does it show I have thin skin that I let someone on the internet anger me? I would think not, because due to the belief of caution paradox, essentially, that I had mentioned earlier, the old-time solution of ignore it until it goes away can't work anymore because of how many people a single voice can reach with no resources other than a keyboard and an internet connection. The amount of people that they can rally to a cause just by saying that is ridiculous, and if you ignore it, it's just going to get worse. Why not squash the cockroach before it starts the colony? But then again, apparently when this guy does these things, he's fighting for what he believes in, but as soon as I react, I'm suddenly dangerous and the one in the wrong for overreacting too much. I'm just equally and oppositely reacting, and I shouldn't have to. No one should have to. I said it before, like, being contrarian doesn't inherently mean you are right. You're not pissing people off by saying the truth, you're just being a butt. And I mean, there's so many people who have said this so many different ways, so much more qualified to say it than me. I know that. So what am I doing saying it then? Well, because, like I said, I don't believe it to be the wrong thing to do for me to say it. If I believed it was incorrect for me to say that, I wouldn't be saying it, because no one ever does something because they believe it to be wrong. I've said that a lot of times before. Do I have to say it again? No, I don't. But I did it anyway. I know there's never going to be a grand solution, and I don't really have the energy to be mad about it, because there's no point being mad about an inherent thing, an inherent fact of the evil that mankind is bound to, the inherent darkness of all people. Because I do hold to the belief that people do not do good things out of the kindness of their heart. They do it to hold back their inner darkness. Whether or not they know that might be a different story. I don't believe people are inherently good, and that's just that, and that's just what my experience has taught me. And perhaps your experience has taught you that you need to be an well, I can't tell you that's the wrong experience because it's your experience, but there is a difference between having an experience, whether you learn from this and move on, or whether you cling to a wretched past. But then again, where does that line get drawn? Is your past that horrible that you need to inflict it upon everyone else? I don't know. I didn't experience it. But do you know just because you did? I mean, this whole philosophy thing. Sometimes even I wonder whether I want to have all the thoughts in my head that I do because of all the problems they present, of all the pots I could stir, of all the water that will boil. I mean, I wonder sometimes, like, why am I saying it if so many others have? Well, I mean, I'm going to say it because it's going to add my voice to that crowd, I guess. I mean, like I said, I don't believe this to be the incorrect course of action. That's why I'm doing it. There's only so many ways I can say that. I suppose the takeaway from this little stint of my rambles is that the shield of anonymity is the most cowardly of them all. I wish I didn't have to say that, but I wish for a lot of things that I know it's never going to happen. I guess I challenge the world to prove me wrong, but that's exactly what I want. And I know it's not a matter of I can't have everything, it's a matter of I can't have anything. But that's a bit more existential than I prefer to get in this little tidbit. The last thing I'll be saying on this subject before I move to my personal little school of philosophy is that my personal experience has taught me that humans are creatures of inherent evil. Are there exceptions to that? Were there inherently good people that existed? If they did, they certainly don't anymore. I learned that. Maybe the last good soul died yesterday. I don't know. It certainly feels like it. Those who know what I'm talking about know exactly what I'm talking about. Thank you for watching this week's episode of Knowledge Talk with me, Greg Laurel. If you want to keep yourself updated on episodes and never miss one, do go ahead and click that subscribe button below. If you got suggestions, comments, or even questions for me regarding the show's topic, or just about me in general, go ahead and leave a comment. I'm probably watching. So until next week, May warrior and scholar come together and help each other to return home in great victory.